Hello, my name is Christopher Golightly, and I am here to present a proposal in response to the analytical report that you, the City of Albuquerque Department of Commerce, had my office conduct. The purpose of this proposal is to act as a direct continuation of the analytical report. The goal of this presentation is to provide a proposed plan of action in a response to the report conclusion. In order to present a proposal, we must first recap the report findings. Remember that the purpose of the initial report was to find any direct correlations between the high theft rates and property crime rates in Albuquerque and Albuquerque commerce and tourism. Now, if you look at the top two statistics, you will see that Albuquerque does have a high crime problem in comparison to other cities, as well as New Mexico in general having a high property crime rate. If you look, Albuquerque is comparable to cities such as Los Angeles, Detroit, and Miami, all notorious for their very high crime rates and theft rates. And if you also look at the right top set of statistics, you will notice that New Mexico in the 2012 census was noted as having the fifth largest property crime rate per 100,000 inhabitants in 2012. If you look at the bottom graph, you will notice that Albuquerque has a relatively high property crime rate in comparison to other large cities in New Mexico as well. So we can understand that Albuquerque does have a very high crime rate and a pretty bad theft and property crime problem. And if you look at the initial report, you will see that Susana Martinez and the Albuquerque Journal noted that Albuquerque tourism and commerce is through the roof and only rising. So we can see that there is no direct correlation between the incredibly high crime rate and the revenue seen through commerce and tourism and the rate of commerce and tourism that Albuquerque is experiencing. This leads us to determining where to go with our initial question. So in order to do that, we must determine what was the main purpose of the initial question, what can be done to accomplish this purpose. So that includes determining what factors need to be considered, what questions should be asked, and what information is missing from the initial report. So the initial question, the main purpose, was to see what negative correlations were seen between Albuquerque's theft rate and its tourism and commerce. So we can say the initial purpose was to see if there are any negative correlations seen between Albuquerque's theft and property crime rates and any other aspects of the city. So this includes seeing what other factors need to be considered. That includes examining the distribution of wealth in Albuquerque and researching common characteristics of theft-based crimes. When you go to the below websites, so city data in particular will show you the distribution of wealth in Albuquerque. And you will see that we have a very close distribution of wealth, which means you have all ends of the spectrum seen in very close proximity. We have very low impoverished people living with extremely wealthy people, which shows that you are going to experience all walks of life on a fairly daily basis in Albuquerque. So that is a factor to be considered. Also, when looking at the cognospublic.cabq, the city website, you can look at all the different characteristics of Albuquerque crimes and then see if there are any correlations to go on from there. Given the fact that we are talking about other traits of the city that might possess a direct correlation to the high property crime and theft rates in Albuquerque, it is obvious that we are fishing for a new question. But rather than ask a very specific question, such as why one trait of Albuquerque specifically correlates to the high property crime and theft rates, why not ask a general question? such as what are the effects of the property crime rate in Albuquerque and what can be done about them. The underlying tone of the report would be what strong correlations can be found in certain traits of the city and the high property crime and theft rates. So it is obvious that by proposing a new question, we are also proposing a new analytical report. So in order to answer that question, we would like to have an analytical report be conducted to better identify the detrimental effects of high theft and property crime rates in the city. The topic would be the question previously stated, and the very rough version of the research methodology will be as follows. Step 1 would be examine in depth the property crime statistics in Albuquerque. And this includes, as we stated before, looking at income distribution and common crime characteristics. Now that includes looking at it much more in depth than we previously stated. Look at specific areas, and then when looking at common crime characteristics, correlate them to those specific areas, and try and also focus on motive, political, and class standing, and basically anything else that could possibly show any correlation to the act of theft or property crime. Second would be to research information regarding multiple facets, statistics, and traits of Albuquerque. And this includes, as is listed, the city's reputation and how are we viewed from people living outside of our borders, as well as how money is spent locally, both by the government, by individuals, and on general spending, as well as specific big purchases, such as automotive, leisure, or resident purchases. We would also research home insurance statistics as well as car insurance statistics to see what has been reported and what has been left on those reports to see if there is any correlation there, as well as looking at any other attributes of the city that we can find any direct correlations. And then lastly, we will correlate the compounded data and analyze the results, hence the analytical report. And therefore, the purpose of the overall analytical report would be to find the direct problem that is caused through the high theft and property crime rates that have been identified over and over, and try and put a halt to this problem, or at least stifle it in any way we can. It is important to identify the problem through countless research and countless hours of hard grunt work, and that is why my company urges you to continue business with us and allow us to work for you and go back to the drawing board, ask new questions, do new research, and take it further until we find a result that you are happy with and we find a course of action that you are comfortable proceeding and taking in order to better this beautiful city that is Albuquerque. Thank you very much for your time.